Hey, what's news, everybody? This is Artifact News coming to you with episode number 9, Off-Chain. In this episode, we're going to do something a little bit different than we normally do, and we're actually going to show pre-recorded interview with 3 brilliant Artifact community members that we shot last week for a show called Off-Chain. It's basically a round-robin type of a show where the host throws out a question about a specific topic related to the Artifact community, and then one of the members of the panel will address the topic and give us their insight. So this show is normally going to be shown on CXTV, and in fact, today the more condensed version of this show is going to be on a new episode of CXTV. But what happened was, when we were recording it, we were actually trying to get to like a 5-minute video, but we got into such a rhythm that we actually went for like 30 minutes. So Cas was cool enough to let us use the unedited footage from that interview, the whole interview, here on Artifact News. So that was really great. I think that was Cookin's idea, and Cas was cool with it. So hey, I'm just putting it up here so you can see the whole thing, because Kaiba, Ava, and Cookin, they really brought the heat, and it was crazy because we didn't prep for that. I was hosting it. I found out I was hosting that day, and I did not have any questions prepared for them, but I was just throwing in questions that I really wanted to hear from each of them. And there's some pretty tough questions. I mean, we're talking about from the marketplace to, will Artifact release a token anytime soon? What about the space pod burning? You know, is that going to happen on Christmas, like crypto dunks? We really got into pretty much the heart of a lot of the questions out there. And the panel just really knocked each of the questions out of the park. Like, you're going to love it. You're definitely going to learn something. I don't care if you're a vet in the Artifact game or if you're just brand new to it. So yeah, I'd like to thank all the panelists and thank you to Cas. So hey, let's dive into it and see what we got. Let's go. Okay, so before we dive into the full off-chain episode, I first wanted to give a very brief introduction to each of our guests. That way you can learn to know them a little bit better, maybe learn how to follow them on Twitter, which would be very cool. Everybody could use support out here. So let's dive in and check it out. Okay, so first I want to talk about Cas. Cas first started out as a moderator in Discord. And then when the Monolith Quest started coming out, Cas started hosting these Twitter spaces. Now, Cas is a full-time Artifact team member, which is really great. I mean, Cas is basically a Renaissance man out here. He can sing, he can probably act, he can produce. I think he was about to get a PhD at one point, and he basically can do it all. But one of the things that he does best, in my opinion, is he just brings people together, which is what an amazing skill to have. And I watched him do it over the last year. Like in spaces, bringing all kinds of people in there, helping people harmonize and work together, and just kind of like, be a community basically. And he brought us together here. He brought Ava, Kaiba, Cookin, and I together to do this show. So like, that's what he does. He helps people come together. And could you have a better trait? I don't think so. But here you go. You can see his Twitter handle. And if you're new to the Artifact ecosystem, definitely reach out to Cas if you have any questions or anything like that. Or if you're having any problems with any of the other like Artifact community members or just other NFT community members in general, he'll definitely be able to offer you some really great advice. I'm sure of it. And yeah, so yeah, hit him up. All right. So now let's talk about Ava. So Ava is a strategist. And I didn't know a whole lot about Ava coming into this interview, but yeah, she's definitely a strategist. Like, she's brilliant, and she can really think through all kinds of logical processes and intricate systems and come to like a rational conclusion that sounds like trustworthy and believable and like non-hypey, but just like really efficient and smart. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, she's really fun to listen to in this interview, and you're definitely going to get something from her insight. And she is a Twitter Space co-host for the Brutally Honest show with her co-host Kaiba, who is also on this episode of Off Chain. You can catch the Brutally Honest Twitter Space every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Every Thursday. And in the Brutally Honest show, I mean, with her insight and Kaiba's insight, I mean, honestly, they should be charging for that show. No joke. But they don't pull any punches in there. And they basically just tell it like it is from a financial perspective and just from a strategy perspective for a portfolio and what you should really be doing. And like, I'm sure if you ask questions in there, they're going to tell you the real deal, and they're not going to really sugarcoat it because, you know, why sugarcoat it? Money's important. Success, being able to eat, all of those things are really important, and they're going to help you do that. So, yep, every Thursday. So then let's jump over to the other co-host, the Golden Boy, Kaiba. I mean, all of them have dope clones, but man, look at this one right here. That is the golden MK2 with the sound waves and the mouth, the Murakami mouth. Oh man, it's really nice. But yeah, so Kaiba is a financial strategist. And what is awesome about Kaiba is, I mean, to be a financial strategist, but like no macro, he knows the micro, the macro, NFTs, crypto, so what a strategic advantage to be a financial strategist and to understand NFTs. And he totally does, right? Like, so he can kind of put together an entire understanding of what somebody should know to make a smart financial decision. Because like, if you're not even thinking about NFTs at this point in your portfolio, you're probably missing the boat, right? So people like Kaiba, who understands the entire game, I mean, that's almost a requirement at this point. And, Kaiba's there. He's already ready to go. So yeah, he's always dropping knowledge, and super cool too, super nice, and, just a great resource. So Twitter Space co-host for the Brutally Honest show, again, with Ava. That's every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And for real, like I said, they should be charging for the show. And hopefully they do in the future, because they're both bringing that kind of value to the table. No joke. Okay, so then let's jump over to our boy, Cookin J. That's right. Cookin, you probably know him, but man, Cookin is prolific, really. Like, he's a project manager, a community organizer. Like, he has started his own community, the CloneXTV group. And he hosts a Twitter space every Monday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I'm telling you, like, Cookin has just got like such a great spirit, just like a great attitude, and he just wants people to succeed. He's just all about the community, for real too. Like, you can just tell he's not faking it, and he just wants everybody to get along. He wants everybody to be successful, and he wants us all to help each other. WAGMI status. But like, he really is like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not just saying it, like, he really wants us all to work together, and he's helping us get there. And I mean, can you really say anything more about somebody who's like genuinely trying to get people to work together again? That's what it really comes down to for me. So yeah, thank you, Cookin, for being on this episode. And as you can see here, you can see Cookin at Cookin_JX for his personal Twitter, and then also at clonespiracy.eth for the Clonespiracies group. And I wanted to show you a little bit about something that Cookin did release lately. And that is this jacket right here. He worked with Johnny Kicks, and I forgot the other members of the team, but he worked like with a really great team to produce this jacket. And he still has some jackets to give away. So go to clonespiracy.eth and you'll find the information there to pick up this jacket. And I'm telling you, Cookin's a seriously hard worker, and he's a mega smart engineer project manager. And he's got an engine. I don't think he's stopping anytime soon. Probably good to pick up like his earliest stuff, because I think he's going to keep going. And you know, if you could probably get this for just like some good community involvement, no money or anything like that. So definitely reach out to clonespiracy.eth. So yeah, that's it. That's the brief overview of our guest today and of Cas. So thank you for joining us. Now let's jump in to the first ever episode of Off Chain. Let's go. All right, hey, Cookin. So what was your favorite part of Clonetober?
Dude, aside from obviously the dope Animus trailer, it was definitely the on cyber minting experience. Combining that with the little Ramoa collab, I mean, we have demonstrated Artifact's brand power at the highest of levels. We have onboarded more people via those little worker robots. We have gotten high fashion, high quality 3K luggage bags that I even considered, you know, replacing my duffel with. Didn't do it. Liquidity. We all can relate. But like overall, I think, you know, like, yes, there was some good, yes, there was some bad. I think that the double-edged sword of hype actually, you know, it cuts both ways, transparently speaking. But at the end of the day, at the end of the month, I think that the concrete, it's poured. And we're about to rock it off of this thing, because we're definitely heading into Eggvember, excited, as Kaiba's Twitter page says.
All right, so Kaiba, from a macro trend, where do you see this market heading?
That's a good question. I think we're going to find out a lot about what's going to happen tomorrow after the big Fed meeting. And I don't know when everybody's going to see this, so we might be, well, I guess we'll see how accurate this is. We're waiting to see what's going to happen with interest rates. If interest rates continue to rise as high as we expect them to, then we expect the market to kind of continue on the way that it is until we figure out what's actually happening with the macro trends when it comes to inflation. Now, if they decide not to raise interest rates as much as we expect them to, we will see quite a start of the market starting to build up again. Now, having interest rates go up isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think that as investors, we should anticipate rates will go up, and they will go up as much as we expect them to go up, because that's why we expect them to go up that much. With raising interest rates, investors tend to start looking to flip from higher risk assets to lower risk assets, such as fixed income. A lot of people, when they think of fixed income, that's pretty boring. Truth is, what you're doing is you're lending money to companies so that they can then take that money and pay you back a fixed percentage. We'll just use 6% as like a average amount that you can get right now by lending companies money. Companies then take that money and pay you back over a specific period of time, but then they use it to try and grow. And a year ago, when companies only had to pay people 1%, maybe 2% in order to borrow their money, there wasn't exactly a lot of risk for them to borrow that money. You could borrow it, you could invest into 100 different things and kind of shotgun approach, what's going to work the best, let's go with that. Nowadays, when interest rates are higher, companies have to pay more to borrow money, making them more selective on how they spend their money, how they target their audience, how they choose how to innovate. So I think people have always said, and this is why it makes sense, bear markets, this is where innovation is born. So I think we're going to see some pretty cool stuff, and we're going to see people focusing that liquidity into specific projects that they really feel can lead their businesses forward. So it's hold on tight. Nobody knows what's going to happen for the next 12, 18 months or so, but I would say that this is the time to be paying attention to those projects that you like, those companies that you think are really pushing technology forward.
Speaking of pushing technology forward, Ava, like what trends in innovation do you foresee on the horizon for Artifact?
Yeah, sure. So I think what Artifact is really, really great at doing is really understanding how to strategically plan for an ecosystem wide strategy. So you see that in a lot of the creative economy. You see that in a lot of how we work together and then strategically partner with a lot of brands such as OnCyber, LVMH. So not only are we signaling to the whole ecosystem and all of the players out there in Web3 that we are a luxury premier partner that stands for fashion and also athletes and all creativity alike. But also, we're also going to be partnering with creators that have yet to be discovered and have everyone benefit as a whole and as a community. You saw a lot of innovation in 2022 with AR and VR. So a really big example of that being the Oculus Quest and the Meta Quest Pro goggles, and Apple also hinting at some AR glasses themselves. Of course, what the community isn't really used to doing is waiting. I think a lot of the players in this space are building the plane as they're flying it. So in 2023, I'm really looking forward to new players in the space to compete, and maybe even some consolidation of the existing ones. I think that would be really, really interesting. But also for the players that took the time to plan, actually execute on a really grand level. So in every industry, ecosystem is a really hot topic. I expect a lot of the best players to win out by executing on an ecosystem and strategically planning steps in that way. There's a lot of liquidity in the market for an appetite for new innovation and new teams and founders that have previous successes in the Web2 space. And we just saw that with Art Gobblers. So feeling really optimistic for next year and the new horizon.
Amazing. Yeah. Hey, Cookin, do you think we're going to see the Monolith 2 before the end of the year?
No. I think the Monolith 2 will be coming April 21st. Run it back, give the Monolith 1 a little birthday party. IYKYK.
All right. Hey, Kaiba, what do you think about the space pod burning? The first time around, when we first got our space pods, they were dropped on December 25th. Is there any chance that we're going to see that again on the space pod burning on Christmas?
Man, for those of you that were there, I mean, Christmas morning was really fun. Like in 2021 then, when you just wake up, you hear all this stuff on Twitter, you get a space pod. It's worth like 1 ETH by the end of the month or the end of the week. Like, I mean, that was crazy. That was honestly crazy. And then, we get the loot pod and everything else. I mean, Artifact has done some funny stuff, and they've given so much back to us in terms of value. When it comes to the space pod burning, it's a really interesting thing because I don't think anybody knows what we're gonna get with it. It seems kind of silly to give us something that's actually turns out to be very valuable just to burn it. So I think I've got plenty of speculation, but I think they'll find a way to make it worth it. I hope to see something exciting, whether it's spaceships, weapons, land. I don't know. I really don't still have a value for metaverse land, to be honest. So I'm really all about those eggs.
Excited.
So now, Ava, Cyber City. Now that's something I'm super excited about, but there's a ton of innovation wrapped up in this. Like, when do you think something like that could be delivered? Are you excited for that? Like, is this really even on the table at this point?
Yeah, I think we're again waiting for a little bit of that execution before we see anything on a cyber city level. I think we really have to question security. In every single big event, I think security and really understanding the integrity of how we're building our identities has a really, really big stigma behind it that's constantly being reinforced. And before we move on to such a mass adoption level, we really have to get that straight. But I really am excited to really immerse ourselves if it does happen. I'd be certainly excited for that for sure.
Definitely. All right, so Cookin, man, what's in this egg? Do you have any thoughts on like what could be in this egg? Are we Pokemon? Is this Tamagotchi? What are we doing?
This is 200 plus unique digital Animus, little companions. I'm talking Pixelmon, but artifact style. Kaiba might have went in. So I think it's going to be 200 plus, man. I think that these guys, they grew up in the same generation as a lot of us. And it's like Pokemon had 150 original. Digimon, I don't know the count. Yu-Gi-Oh, I don't know the count. There's a lot of little digital collectibles that we grew up training, growing, battling, and I think that all of that's going to come to this ecosystem in some way, shape, or form. Like Animus interacting with Evo X vials to create Cryptokicks. Come on, bring in the move to earn though news. That will be the headline.
Yeah, Kaiba, man. Speaking of like move to earn, okay, so there's been some speculation that there's going to be some staking involved with these eggs, maybe some incubation period. But like whether, if you want to talk about that or some move to earn or a combination of both, like what are your thoughts on this?
It's all about gamification at this point. I mean, Artifact has proven time and time again that they are creative. We know that. We know they play video games. We know they're on top of this stuff. Gamification is next. It's not about, we're going to give you a companion that you can, you reveal it and you're going to love it. No, it's going to be more than that. It's going to be some type of, why are you choosing to stake like this instead of staking like this? Or maybe, why are you choosing, and I don't know, maybe it's like, I don't know. I don't want to get total hopiumistic here, but I think that they will continue to push the space forward. And I think that there will be more choice that leads to different outcomes based on what we decide to do, how we decide to protect our eggs. And maybe that does tie into move to earn. I don't know. I think it's possible all this stuff connects one way or another. Maybe you have to physically put your egg somewhere in the real world and then try and keep it safe. I don't know. I mean, I really think anything is possible from an innovation standpoint. The egg execution, that's what's in question. I mean, how much of this stuff can actually be done? We all have great ideas. I'm sure they've been thinking about this for years before we even knew what it was. So I think it's fun to speculate, but I think there will be a gamification. That's my big takeaway, or my big hope, really.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. So Ava, we have ApeCoin, right? SEC attacking ApeCoin, going after Yuga Labs for this. Do you think it's important that Artifact rolls out a token? And when do you think that could happen? Like, given what the SEC is going through with ApeCoin and everything, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think the SEC allegations and investigation isn't necessarily the worst thing. I think it was always going to come. Unfortunately, it hit where it hit hardest and where we are shining, which was ApeCoin and Yuga Labs. I think it really means that they're paying attention to the space, and we've kind of made enough noise, and our liquidity has really moved into a place where they really want to seek some kind of regulation and understanding of it. If I'm being most empathetic, I think they're doing a really great job in understanding and really pulling all of the evidence from places as nascent as Discord. And I think that's absolutely fantastic and interesting to see, to say the very least. Tokenization, I think, is a topic that, everybody hasn't really figured out. And especially when you have ApeCoin and the DAO, it was put into the voters' hands. So that's a starting question, if it should even really be left to the community to vote for, or if it should align 100% with Artifact's vision and therefore be a decision solely dictated by the founders. Tokenization, I think, is great. I think if there is a really, really good use for it, I think it's a great way to lock in your partnerships that we've already really taken advantage of. If we're looking into paving the way to connect the physical and the digital, then tokenization is a really great way to do that, to lock in the user experience as well. So as long as the tokenomics are there for demand, people who want to shop with luxury brands and artifact, and supply, people who really want to stay in the ecosystem, I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea. I think it's certainly one to worth exploring.
Totally agree with you. Great answer there. Hey, so Cookin, are the Cryptokicks really going to have flexible LED screens on them? This is a question I've had. You really think that's going to happen?
I 100% believe that we will see flexible OLED organic light emitting diode screens on the Cryptokicks that are totally customizable. They will figure out this whole waterproofing thing on electronics, and your boy's gonna be rocking those. I can say it. Johnny gonna be like, bro, what? But you know, and in this world, I see it as we want to wear these things. We want people to see these things. These have to be rocked. They cannot be stocked. And the way that Artifact has the opportunity to empower us to rock these things is to guarantee replacing them. You know, like one NFT gets a replacement pair of Cryptokicks every 6 months, or once you've walked, you know, X amount of steps, once you've moved, once you've earned some XP, once you've, you know, been dripped out in whatever multipliers from the season 1 forging that you can integrate into your inventory, that walkable little app that's going to be on all of our phones soon enough, bro, because we need the NFC chips to connect to the digital NFT chips and get people outside of our rooms, outside of our screens, get us out into the mall, get us outside in the park. Let us show off this drip that literally nobody else has. There's 9,500 holders across the world. You see somebody in something like this, you're going to stop and stare.
Wow. Yeah, perfectly said, man. Seriously. Now, Kaiba, this is one we haven't really talked a lot about, so I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here. But the original roadmap had the marketplace, the Artifact marketplace, set for 2022. Now, I mean, first of all, do you think that that's even a possibility here? But like, do you also have any speculation on what that marketplace might be?
I don't think we need a marketplace right now. I think a marketplace would be cool if done correctly, of course. But what would that be? I mean, effectively, it would need to be a replacement of StockX. For, you know, the physical items that we're able to forge. I think, I mean, God, there's so much being built right now. And when it comes to how do you build a brand that can last a lifetime, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day. Neither was Nike. None of these brands were. We need more things before we need a marketplace. And I think you asked the question about the tokens. I think that a lot of people in the community, and like early on in the bull market, it's like, yeah, drop a token, then we'll need it for the marketplace. Then we'll use it to buy stuff. And we come up with all these grandiose ideas of how, you know, everybody makes money in that situation. If Artifact has like a royalty on both the token and the items that we're buying, they're going to make a killing, and we're going to make a killing because we're going to have a massive liquidity event, and other people maybe need to buy our tokens in order to purchase the products that are being built by Artifact. But first step is first, why do people want Artifact? Why do people want to go to this marketplace? What's the point in owning a digital asset? And that's the hump that we need to get over. And that's why I was actually so impressed with Clonetober. I didn't have the opportunity to forge, to mint. But I was very impressed with the fact that we got a top tier brand. We brought them into the metaverse. We gamified what they had. I don't know the terms of this gamification yet, but there's a reason that there were 4 different suitcases, right? And one of them was the Mimic, which is from a game. All of these things have purpose. And it might be a year or longer. It might be less. I don't know, until it's obvious of why they did what they did. But either way, it will be pretty cool if Artifact can continue to bring brands like that in, and then show new people that come into the NFT ecosystem that you don't just buy a digital good. When you buy something Artifact, you will also get utility from it. Artifact equals utility. You buy this suitcase, you get a physical, unique suitcase, and maybe it serves to protect your eggs as well. And if that is the case, a lot of people probably just bought the suitcase because they wanted the suitcase, but they're going to hold on to it because they're probably interested in, why does this still have value even though I already forged it? Right? Well, maybe it protects your egg or something. Oh, well, I better get an egg. So it's smart. It's business, it's savvy, and it's innovative.
Now, Cookin, real quick, you have your hand raised. Do you have something you want to add to that?
Yeah, I had to properly raise my hand. I was pretty happy that there was a feature on
Nice.
the tool here. So the Artifact Remoa, the worker bot, it has 12 posable 3D animations inside an on cyberspace. Think about that. That is bringing in animation. That is eliminating the difficulties of Blender, of learning 3D modeling. If a normal person can pick up a worker bot, stick it in their 3D space, and pose it in any number of created poses, that brings us down a roadmap. That brings us towards this interoperable, simplified user experience, which really it's like that's the concrete that they're pouring. That's the foundation. That's what Clonetober was all about. And it's just like, zooming out and looking at it, it becomes so much more clear.
No doubt, no doubt. Now, Ava, as an innovation strategist, I assume that you think a lot about what Artifact could be doing and what you think moves they should be making. Is there anything that you think they could be doing that maybe they're just not really focusing in on at this point?
It's not entirely one thing. Obviously, I think they're very ambitious and they're a very talented group. I think the problem maybe is that the roadmap is so ambitious that it's more about prioritizing the top things instead of, focusing on everything going on all at once. Obviously, I don't have inside eyes into the organization, but they have made some really, really great hires. So I trust that the team's really, really going to be on their way to really make things user friendly, as Cookin just said. So if 2022 was the year of early adoption, I think 2023 maybe is the year of wide adoption, where we're really making things or trying to make things a little bit more usable. But of course, I think what everybody is really gleaming over, I think, is the, underpinning this whole movement is really the security risks and, how the blockchain will scale. I really, really hope that it doesn't really stumble and then blow up. And, as we take 2 steps forward, I hope it's not 5 steps back in 2023. But I think we will learn some lessons here and there.
Sounds perfect. Okay, so Kaiba, yeah, would you like to chime in on that?
Yeah, I think it's just cool to demonstrate to a company like Remoa, for example, the value of what NFT technology can bring to them, and also coupling that with the NFC chips that they're partnering with Nike to do. So I'm just really excited to start seeing more brands come into this space with more intention versus maybe what we've seen in the past. And I think that seeing what Artifact does to be able to continue to bring value to the holders, for example, of these Remoa bags, even after forging, will be a huge opportunity to show other companies and potential future partners that, hey, not only are we going to kick ass at what we build with you, but we're going to be able to continue to bring you a revenue stream because the lore, the gamification, the attraction of what we are building in this ecosystem is more than a product. And our community is more than customers.
Wow, great answers, everybody. And with that, we are going to close our first ever episode of Off Chain. Well, hey, we did it, guys. That was great. And thank you. You guys are just all so brilliant. That was amazing just to listen to all of your answers. I really appreciate you for joining us today and breaking this ground with us. So anybody have any last words?
I appreciate how you took us off chain, Artifact News. You did a wonderful job. OC, baby.
Thanks, man.
Either man, appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck editing that, Cass.